Well, let's talk about last night's European games. Manchester United 4, La Real 1. Yes, they beat Royal Society. When you translate it to English, it does seem quite the victory. Yeah. And Bruno Fernandes, Andy, or Fernandes, as it's written here, scored a hat-trick for those Red Devils. Was this their best performance under Ruben Amorim, Andy Brassel?
It's got to be up there. I can't think of another one off the top of my head. Maybe Liverpool at Anfield is the other one that comes into the mix.
I mean, their best result was obviously the victory at Craven Cottage.
Yeah, obviously. That sticks
But
in mind. In terms of them being able to dominate to some degree, I think the interesting thing is if you go back to the original game, they're really, really good for the first hour in that, I think.
Yeah.
It's a really polished, sensible, organised performance. And then they concede the penalty and they fall to bits.
So this way, they got the penalty out the way early.
I like that you called it the original game. Like this is a sequel.
Yeah,
this is
I
like
think so.
May not have been Sociedad
This
too.
is Back to the Future too. Yeah, I think the interesting thing is, given the way that first leg finished and given the way this started, there were plenty of opportunities for them to like properly fall to bits and go out of this, and they didn't. And they kept a bit of calm, kept a bit of composure, and it was fully deserved in the end. The only thing is, with a slight Leon sympathy, not only did I book a hotel for the away leg in Manchester about 7 minutes after kickoff, but ever since I felt really tense, not because Leon are playing Man United, but it'd be so embarrassing if we lose to them.
If we. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's the giveaway.
You're on the Constant show. You can do your wee stuff on that on a Thursday.
Yeah.
No, it's neutral on there.
Oh, you have to be neutral on there. Okay,
Yeah.
You're by the way,
obviously neutral, Jim.
While we're on the subject, your guys' coverage of the Madrid derby on OTC yesterday was absolutely fantastic.
Oh my goodness!
I recommend people listening to it. They should listen to it because it was absolutely brilliant.
But seriously, put your hands up if you saw him hit it twice.
No, I was going to say,
put your hand up.
Don't be afraid.
me and Pete covered it on Reacts, and I was convinced on one of the replays I saw that he definitely hit it twice. So I was really fucking relieved when you confirmed that on the Constant yesterday, because you said on one of the angles you could see it.
Take it again.
It was a chaotic first half, wasn't it? Just referee just giving penalties left, right, and centre. Incredible.
Did you think the one on
the Dorgu?
The Manchester United penalties were penalties?
So I thought
Dorgu second, but first.
So the first one I thought was.
Did you agree with that, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the first, obviously, the Real Sociedad one was.
Yes.
And then the Dorgu one I thought wasn't.
No, I'm in agreement with you.
And
there.
I thought if the referee's not given that, there's no way VAR's given that.
Yeah, I thought the only thing that gave me pause for thought on that is sort of, does the defender know what he's doing there? And is it essentially obstruction?
I think that. I think, he's doing that thing that a defender does where he puts himself in a position where he's going to take a player out, then raises his hands.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't actually put my leg out, which I think is a little bit dishonest.
I think, though, the fact that Dorgu then does a Robbie Fowler and says to the referee for what would have been their third penalty for Manchester United.
Yes.
That it's not, because I think he's probably thought, you've already given me one.
It was a brilliant tackle.
Brilliant tackle. Had you already done it though when VAR confirmed it? But yeah, no, I do agree. I was going to say that wasn't a penalty.
But I think, given that they went behind United, and given that they've been so fragile in so many different ways, there was a lot of positivity to take from that game last night, I thought, for the reasons Andy said, but also, again, they went behind. And there were some individual performances that were actually pretty decent. I thought Xerxes was good.
It was?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, Højlund led the line well. I think it was decent.
It was gutting for him, he never scored.
He's quite simply never going to score another goal.
Right.
He's going to become essentially like a modern like Emil Heskey type character.
I'll have a go at Heskey.
On the day the squads are now
He's back in the England squad.
doing his DJing.
Yeah.
There was a point actually during the game where I'd glanced down at my phone, as you do. I looked up, saw someone shoot, assumed it was a centre back, but it was Rasmus.
Yeah.
He just had that sort of look.
He's
to
got the profile. But I think with those individual performances that with obviously Fernandes, I mean, where would they be without him? I mean, I know that there's
been
places
below them in the Premier League.
Yeah, but there's talk, isn't there, that Roy Keane says this thing he says about him, how it's essentially implying that it's easy to look good in this team because they're so poor, and also because the expectations are so much lower. But he has, I mean, Andy, I don't know how you feel about this, but he's made an incredible contribution. If you look at his numbers in terms of chance creation, assists, goals, he's made a really, really big contribution to United in this period.
But I think if you go right back to when he signed,
absolutely,
he's just
hit the ground running. Yeah,
he's been the key player since the minute he walked in the door in different types of Manchester United teams. I mean, in a way, I suppose you can argue he's part of the problem because he has enabled them not to fix the key issues because he has been able to win.
So he's a
games that they
wallpaperman.
should
He's
never
papering over all the cracks every single week. And so they're going, we ain't got to do anything.
Portuguese polyfiller.
Yeah, he's Portuguese polyfiller, Mark.
Do you think
You've got to be having
he'll
that.
appreciate that?
But
Probably he's not aware of what polyfiller is.
You've been brilliant, but yeah, you've sort of been brilliant. Like, you've been a bit of a dick about it, you know. We're worse because of how good you've been. It's hard to take that feedback.
Well, I mean,
isn't it?
him calling him papering over the cracks. I mean, someone papering over the cracks knows exactly what they're doing. Whereas him scoring goals, it's not as if like stop doing that.
Yeah.
We're going to be worse off without those
Andy, are
goals.
you suggesting
Look, the stadium's going to crumble anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you suggesting that he's like he's Nicholas Angel in Hot Fuzz? He's about to be sent to Sam for Gloucestershire because he's making everyone look bad. He can go on loan to Cheltenham.
Yeah,
He's making everyone look bad.
I mean, one could forget, you know, how highly sought after Fernandes was when Manchester United got him, and the fact he stayed there, I think, shows you his desire and passion for the club.
Massively. I'm really impressed by his loyalty, actually, because he's 30 now. There doesn't seem to be any suggestion that he's looking to move on.
When in the summer,
but
they
that
did have chats, and he said, no, last summer he said there was offers now again.
Right.
What were the offers? I mean, I can't remember if there were any.
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But the fact is, he stayed, and I don't think anybody can question his commitment and his desire. Actually, I think the criticism with some ex-Manchester United players, because Nicky Butt also said a few things. He said, well, he wouldn't last 10 minutes in our squad and so on. And I thought to myself, well...
Helpful, isn't it?
But the reason why they're saying that is because of his body language and chucking his arms up.
But that's nonsense.
But Andy, I thought to
any
myself...
of them be exasperated in this situation?
Because in that tide, well, he'd have Roy Keane and... I mean, obviously, formation-wise, I know it's a bit different, but... Well, he would have been in a winning machine, so he's not going to be so exasperated. Exactly. No. So
they want him to be a happy loser. I don't really understand the criticism there. It's a weird criticism.
I mean, we've probably been a touch critical, but
I think the reason for it's the specificity of it. I think the people who are criticising him for that are people who don't necessarily understand that. He articulates himself in a certain way, and they see it to be performative. Whereas I think that's just how he expresses himself.
And also,
whereas I think that's just how football is.
Yeah, but they would also say, well, Ferguson wouldn't have that. But yet, you know, Ronaldo wasn't in full tantrum when he was at Manchester United. That would come a little bit later. But anyway, I think it's all a bit silly and it's getting off topic. After the game, though, Amorim said of Bruno Fernandes, sometimes he goes around in different positions. He doesn't trust his teammates. He can show that frustration, but he's always there. And I think that's probably more of an issue, is that he does that. You can understand why he does that. So that would be more of a tactical issue, I suppose, from Amorim's point of view. So you can understand maybe that needs to be kind of tightened up a bit. But it was interesting, though, staying on Fernandes just for a moment more, his response essentially to Sir Jim Ratcliffe's chat about some players are not good enough and overpaid. And he responded directly to that, saying that's just not helpful. No player wants to hear that.
Well, it's not helpful to Manchester United, is it? Because it's driving down the value of the players that are trying to sell.
Indeed, Andy.
It was also an absolutely preposterous thing to say for someone in that position. It's idiotic. It was an idiotic interview by someone who makes it very, very difficult to understand how he's become so successful when he clearly presents himself as a clueless moron every time he speaks.
Well, he's presumably hiring people to reinforce his thoughts on everything, isn't he? It's a classic example of a person surrounded by yes men going into an industry he knows nothing about and assuming he's got this sort of he's like the king of it.
The arrogance of it was incredible. He had done no research. When Neville interviewed him and asked him questions, he had no clue what he was talking about.
I was going to add something to this Jim Ratcliffe chat, but I don't think I can because you've given me no room. So well done, chaps.
One thing I just wanted to ask Andy maybe is, and you haven't got to go into too much detail on it, but just very quickly, I was finding it quite difficult to understand how good the teams that they're playing, because Sociedad are like mid-table in La Liga. They've obviously got some good players. Oyarzábal's obviously a great player. They've got some good options and they've had some good results this season. But I mean, you can because we opened the chat talking about how is it their best performance under Amorim. It's hard to know that without understanding the quality of the opposition and how different it's going to be against Lyon.
Well, Real Sociedad have, as you say, got a lot of very good players. They've been below par this season, but they're still properly dangerous. So it's a good win. I think it really is a good win.
A little bit of your South London roots coming out there, Andy. It's properly dangerous.
I did think Real Sociedad over both legs were very poor, though, generally. I don't know
I would agree
if
with
that's
that.
a reflection of how they play in La Liga, but I think probably one of the most encouraging things for Man United last night was just how much they set the agenda and dominated the game. You don't always see them do that. It seems to get away from them quite easily and too often, but there wasn't really even a hint of that.
No,
I think they controlled it really well.
The interesting thing, just to quickly go back to that, about if Real Sociedad being poor over the two legs, I would agree. But I would say that they're kind of in the same boat as most of these teams in the Europa League, because a lot of them have really underachieved in the league this season, but they've got quality. So, and I think it's a reflection of where the Europa League is at the moment without big teams falling out of the Champions League.
And also as well, in context, Man United are piss poor in the Premier League.
They are.
Do you know what I mean? So again, we talk about Manchester United as if they're sort of top 4, top 6 or whatever. All in all, it was a good win and a good performance.
I'm not talking about them like that. No, in any way.
Do you like though that Anthony's still in the competition with? In the Conference League with Real Betis?
I know he scored and assisted. And the best answer I can give you to that question is I have absolutely no problem whatsoever in believing that Anthony is a Europa Conference League level player.
I see. Is Kobe Mainu a 20 grand a week player? Because that's currently what he's on. Is he overpaid? Is that Jim Ratcliffe overpaid? Is he going to get a new deal?
I can just hear at the moment the sound of some blood being squeezed out of a stone, and that's the contract negotiations.
Wonder where you were going to go there. Thank goodness for that.
Use this stone for the new stadium.
So Jim, could you not maybe have like a benefit dinner with like Harry Maguire and Bruno Fernandes to raise some money for Kobe Mainu's contract? I didn't think about it. No one suggested that to me. I think that was an idea.
He doesn't like the word benefit. Let's be quite clear about that. Spurs went through last night as well into the quarterfinals of the Europa League, beating AZ Alkmaar 3-1 on the night. They'll face Eintracht Frankfurt, who of course know this competition very well indeed.
And who were great against Ajax, by the way.
They really were. Jordan Henderson's Ajax. England star Jordan Henderson back in there. But yeah, that was better from Spurs as well, with some of their key players being back in the side.
Some of it was better.
Yeah,
it was a very, very uneven performance.
They did their best.
It was undoubtedly better compared to the original tie, Andy.
Yeah.
Which was
Did you like the sequel as much? Was it necessary, the sequel, do you reckon?
I mean, Tottenham Hotspur back in the habit.
He wants a trilogy.
Is this a Star Wars Empire Strikes Back situation where the sequel's much better than the original?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Admiral Alkmaar certainly was featured, but I thought Andy was teeing me up there, so I thought I've got to hit it.
I love that Ange Postecoglou's just been absolutely dogged every single interview by saying that he always wins something the second year. Yeah. Like he almost sounded apologetic yesterday for saying it.
Not in the clips I saw.
No, but as close as he will ever get to being apologetic.
Yeah. No
apology that starts with, look, he's ever going to be an apology. But he's more along the lines of being a bit more contrite than he was.
He certainly cuts a different figure, Ange Postecoglou, when he's being interviewed by the delightful chap, Ben Haynes, that we know, who does Spurs TV.
Yeah, because it's impossible to be unhappy with Ben.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But Ben will ask the same question, but in a different way. Whereas the journalist's a bit like... is it make or break again this weekend?
Yeah, I know.
Are you going to be sacked tomorrow? And he's just like...
Are you pissed off you got players injured? I would say Ben Haynes was definitely the most professional broadcaster at the stadium last night.
Oh, were you there, Andy?
Andy was there, yeah.
With Ben, actually.
He's a lovely lad.
You were there with Coity as well.
Yes,
rubbing shoulders with all the Spurs royalty.
You're joking.
Yeah.
How about that?
Did you have to kneel at the altar of Glenn Hoddle before you started? Or?
Well, that's voluntary anyway. I do that anyway,
yeah, well,
But what Andy was alluding to, Marcus, which I totally agree with, I saw a good portion of this game, it is that they did their very best to kind of throw it all away. They got caught in possession quite badly for the Alkmaar goal. AZ then were...
That was a ludicrous goal to consider.
Ridiculous. Lovely hit though, wasn't it?
Yeah, very good finish by Kurt Miners.
But it was also late on, they were flirting with it a lot.
They were hanging on in a way that they never should have been.
No.
Because after they've got the second goal, you think, okay, they've got this all in the bag here. And then they managed to prove that that's not the case
Would you trust them against Eintracht Frankfurt in the next round?
Only because Eintracht Frankfurt's level has dropped off significantly since it seems obvious to say, but since Omar Mamouche went. And they're really hanging on to a Champions League place now, and I don't think they will finish top 4.
But Andy, but the fact is they're hanging on to a Champions League place. They're just battered Ajax.
But Andy thinks Ajax threw
a
it.
very, very average
Threw it
Ajax
But
team.
this is not a great Spurs side. I'm talking in the specifics of this. I don't think they're going to go.
Andy, give Marcus the answer he wants, and we can move on to the Rangers game.
if we're talking of the respective levels of the teams in this competition, Spurs should be putting them away.
Right.
Of course, Eintracht have dangerous players, but come on. And it's a lot easier because there's no Mamouche.
We have to mention the young lad Odebear as well.
Yeah, that's first goal.
Very
Nice
good
finish as
game.
well.
Very good game.
Much needed for Spurs.
It was a gift of a goal to open. This is the thing about AZ. It's really frustrating. Is that they should have been approaching that. I mean, maybe they were, and it's easier said than done. But they should have been approaching that game thinking, if we keep this tight, because we're ahead on aggregate, we keep this tight, the fans are going to turn. It's going to be hard. It's really hard for Spurs. They're going to find it tough to do anything, and they're going to get frustrated, as they do, and they are more than capable of being turned over at home by a worse team. We've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Yet they and it's not the fact they conceded, because I know Spurs can be good.
But they presented them with the
way
goal.
they conceded was really frustrating.
You're right. And up until that point, Spurs hadn't created much clear. If something was going to happen, it was going to be through Son. And they just put a load of traffic in between him and the goal, which makes it incredibly difficult, particularly as he doesn't have the pace that he used to have. And, Son had a pretty good game, I thought, especially for the first hour. But I think that's where Odebear really worked. And that is why he will work for Spurs going forward. It's not really the goals. And the first one especially is a really, really nice finish. But it's the fact that he's able to carry the ball quickly over quite a long stretch. And that makes a massive difference to what they're able to do, gets them up the pitch.
I think Troy Parrott not scoring against Spurs is absolutely negligent in my view as well. Get a goal, man.
There's narrative there.
He's got loads of goals this season.
He did.
And also, commiserations to the brilliantly named Martin Martins at Alkmaar.
Yeah.
There's no Wolfgang Wolf, is he, to be fair?
But he is a Martin Martins, and that deserves respect.
It's basically like Jim being called Jim Jimble.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Something we can all get behind.
Yeah.
Rangers went through on penalties after losing 2-0 on the night to Fenerbahce.
For king and country.
I tell you what, His Majesty's 11 will be delighted with that.
By the way, what an opener by Szymanski.
Yes,
so good.
What a goal.
Ali McCoist was so torn on Comfort.
Yeah, I know,
He was like,
it's brilliant. It's painful, but it's brilliant.
It was an
Apologies
absolute
to all of
peach.
Scotland for that accent.
Well, I mean, when they go 2-0 up and you see Mourinho all in grey on the sideline.
He looked like he was wearing a sort of kind of half jacket, half dressing gown.
He looked amazing.
Slight smoking jacket.
I thought, is this kind of like vintage Mourinho stuff? And it kind of wasn't what it wasn't to be.
The outfit was very much Jose Mourinho's in town.
Well, he was.
I've come to town.
Did you see, though, when they scored the second goal, he immediately just went, just calm down, everybody.
That's what I do.
Yeah,
Well,
I know.
He doesn't really do football anymore, does he? He just does press conferences.
Yeah.
So the football is all a sort of side vehicle to him. So he's unloading all his grievances post Budapest.
So most managers are checking their watch to see if extra time's left. Mourinho's checking to go, can we get this fucking done? Because remember he got pissed off a while back having to wait 2 hours for a press conference because basically he loves press conferences so much.
Yeah. He want to stroll down the Clyde in a minute.
It was said of Alfred Hitchcock, wasn't it, that he basically his movies didn't need to be edited because he'd constructed things in a way where everything would just slot together because of how he planned it. So he found the actual filming of things quite boring.
Right.
And was quite sort of grumpy and kind of just distant. I think Mourinho's the same, isn't it? It's the 4D chess thing.
Absolutely.
He's arranged the game in the press conference. Turning up to it is just an inconvenience to him.
And let's be clear, last night could well have been an audition for Rangers manager.
Oh yeah,
I love that he put that little tidbit out.
He got a round of applause from the Rangers fans apparently when he went over, and he was very respectful.
Game recognises game.
I think so. he is a grade A Rangers fan.
I'm just trying to think of what Alfred Hitchcock movie Jose Mourinho would be. Psycho, probably.
Jack Butland was the hero, though. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Not in Thomas Tuchel's squad, sadly. For him. But Luke and I will be giving you an extra bit of sweet bonus content. We're going to be talking about the England squad specifically. So do get your eyes around that because it will be on our YouTube channel.
Later today. Excited for that.
I'm very excited. I think we got League Cup final preview, Premier League, we've got Europa League. We can't give the squad the attention it deserves on this particular podcast. But as I say, head over to our YouTube later today and we will be talking about all the stuff.
Shout out to the FA to actually announce in the squad before we record.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah,
it has taken us by surprise.
That doesn't normally happen.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, but anyway, Rangers though they held their nerve when it mattered and won a penalty shootout, and it's a big win because they'll play Athletic Bilbao in the last 8. The last time they got this far was when they reached the final, of course, of this very competition. So they're on the march, Andy.
Rangers in Europe is something amazing.
It's a funny one, isn't it?
It is absolutely amazing, and despite the closeness of this, they totally deserved to win this tie. And I thought the score was a little bit harsh on them last night. It was definitely only winning 3-1 was a little bit harsh on them in the away leg. But I don't know. I don't want to go on about Mourinho making loads of excuses after you've lost to a team that you've got 10 times the budget of. But
yeah,
you know,
we'll come back.
But what Rangers have been able to do in this is extraordinary.
Andy's always talking about budgets. Just think about less budgets, more vibes.
Yeah,
vibes and romance.
What's the vibe saying? Yeah, you're always saying that English.
The vibes is saying you're wasteful and you're making excuses for losing to a team with much worse players than you.
Fine,
that's what the vibes.
Much better phrasing of it.
Andy must feel like a member of the cabinet being talked to by Boris Johnson there. By the way. But Andy, Athletic Bilbao, one might say they are the best side left in this competition.
You could argue that they're
so it's a tough task for Rangers.
They're really, really good, but they were a little bit fortunate in that Mats Hummels got sent off for 10 minutes after. For Roma,
just for 10 minutes,
which really changed the game totally. I mean, Hummels came out and was really self-flagellating afterwards on social media and apologised to the club.
How about that? Now, staying with Fenerbahce very briefly, Alan Saint-Maximin, former Newcastle man, wasn't included in the squad, and he posted on Instagram, "When the lie gets on the elevator, the truth climbs the stairs. It will take longer, but it will come in the end."
I quite like that phrase. It's a really good saying.
Bit cryptic. Jose Mourinho responded, perhaps in less cryptic fashion.
It's not far off that.
It's really not, is it?
I did not know that Saint-Maximin was talented in poetry. I'm not bad at this either. When a football player works well, when he works hard, when he trains every day, he is fit and can climb the stairs. He does not need an elevator. However, if a player does not train well, is late, is overweight, if he is not ready to play, he needs an elevator to go up because he gets tired quickly on the stairs.
Yeah.
He's a
yeah, translated. Yeah,
it's amazing to think that Saint-Maximin is probably sitting there thinking, I could be playing for Napoli, chasing Serie A now, and being flogged by Antonio Conte instead.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
into the fire.
At least he might have a medal at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Though,
why do players think they're going to come out on top of these confrontations with Mourinho,
who dominates all the?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like trying to take on Donald Trump.
It's impossible. Impossible.
Very silly.
Drag you down to his level and beat you with experience.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Coming up after this, Newcastle United bid to end 70 years of hurt.
To run and does. Can he play a colleague through? It's Jacob Murphy released. Murphy one-on-one. Jacob Murphy to win it. Just put it in the net.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. The Carabao Cup final is on Sunday. Newcastle United against Liverpool. Newcastle will bid to end a 70-year wait for a domestic trophy. And of course, they lost the final of the Carabao Cup just 2 years ago when Manchester United, Erik ten Hag's Manchester United, who were quite prolific in finals, one has to say, beat them 2-0.
Yeah, to a Casemiro goal, which is the most embarrassing thing.
Yeah. Well, Kieran Trippier says the club have learned from their mistakes. He said staying at the Hilton was too close. The club learned a lot from that the first time round. So, Newcastle fans, I don't know if that's a good omen or not, but it does seem that they're ready, Jim.
It does. It's a really exciting tie, actually, isn't it? When you look at the context of it, obviously Newcastle, they've got some players missing, but they've had a bit more rest, and they will be so fired up, pumped up for this. England's Dan Burn in particular, which I know you'll both come on to later on YouTube.
Oh, I promise you we will.
Yeah.
I promise you that. But check the social media for why.
Indeed. And this suddenly feels a lot more important to Liverpool than it did a week ago, didn't it? And they're going to be hurting from what happened in midweek. They're going to be really, really determined to put that right. But they're also, going to be a little bit bruised, and possibly a little bit, maybe a little bit vulnerable because they've got a lot of football in their legs that Newcastle don't. They're coming off the back of a very sort of difficult thing to deal with. Trent Alexander-Arnold's going to be missing. Missing that delivery is a massive, massive thing in terms of Newcastle not having to face it. And I'm really looking forward to this. Going to be some really good battles in there. I think, Isak v Van Dijk is probably the best striker versus the best defender in the country. Dan Burn and Salah as well will probably match up a lot.
Yes, and Isak has given a lot of problems to Van Dijk in the past, which I think is really, really interesting.
Yeah, massively so.
Certainly in terms of setting the tone. I mean, I don't know about you guys, I find it quite hard to imagine Newcastle seeing it out, like going the distance with Liverpool. I find that really very hard to imagine. But if they're going to have any chance of that, Isak has to get after Van Dijk early on and give them a bit of a start, I think.
Yeah, it's also worth pointing out, and I like, Jim, that you've approached this with the reasons why Newcastle can win, because that would be, for me, a far more interesting story, and it would be a kind of, just an interesting one. But I can't remember the last time Newcastle have even beaten Liverpool.
No, they've got a terrible record against them.
Really poor.
They played recently as well, didn't they? Like under a month ago, I think they lost 2-0 to Liverpool. But they had that really entertaining 3-3 draw earlier, and it's a final. These things these things happen.
I hate to sound say the bleeding obvious, but it is such a shame that Anthony Gordon's not going to be playing because, in particular, at right back, Liverpool probably have Joel Kwanzaa there. Trent's obviously injured. Bradley's injured. So that would be an area where you think they would target. Now, Harvey Barnes, I think, will start, I suspect. Yeah. Even though they could do that sort of, have that system where Joe Linton and Joe Willock are kind of switching and once you're going up.
That's what I think they'll do.
Do you think they'll do that?
Yeah.
Why do you think that? A bit more solid in the centre of the pitch?
He doesn't seem to want to play Barnes that much.
Well, Barnes started against West Ham. On Monday night and had a lovely assist for the goal.
Yeah, okay, they won that, didn't they?
Yeah, I think he's more like for Gordon, even though they're slightly different players.
Harvey Barnes is far. He's a very, very capable player.
He's more
and he can produce a moment of magic.
He's more similar to Gordon than Willock is, but he's not
definitely.
But he's not that similar to Gordon.
No, he's not as dynamic. I think that's the thing. He's not going to attack the space in the same way. And I think the goal that he created for Bruno Guimaraes at West Ham kind of underlined that. The delivery, or he can come in and have a shot as well. That's great, but he's not really going to attack that space on the outside. That's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I suppose I'm being harsh on Barnes, and maybe it's just the case that he's not playing as much because of Gordon.
Well, he's hardly played at all, really, has he? But pro rata since he's arrived at Newcastle.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's a cup final, Liverpool are clearly a far better team. You alluded to it a second ago, Marcus, around Liverpool will be hurting because they were knocked out by PSG. They were outclassed by PSG, really. I mean, particularly in the first leg. I think they probably thought that, or maybe they didn't think. Maybe that's too harsh. They were clearly under the impression they were a good team. And they were going to go deep in Europe, and they haven't done that. I mean, they basically breezed through the league phase, draw up against a good team. PSG are known to be unreliable in Europe, so they was giving themselves a good chance to go through there.
They've also had it all their own way in the Premier League.
I was about to say they've had it all their own way in the Premier League, and now it's what we're coming into in this phase of the season is what we see happen time and time again. Obviously, it didn't happen when Man City were able to win all those trophies, but generally speaking, you can listen to chat around November, December about these teams going to win the lot, and then all of it just comes crashing down in March because it's so hard, and how they respond to that difficulty, going out the FA Cup, going out the Champions League, is going to really tell the story of this game, because they're a better team than Newcastle, even with the players they got missing. They're a more reliable team than Newcastle. They're going to win the Premier League at a canter, really,
which is why this game's important, because if it's if they don't win this final, then I say all that's left. It's the Premier League title. It's enormous. I get that, and maybe
it's particularly enormous for them.
Yeah,
given what the season could have been. I think that's the thing.
But that is very much a neutral looking in. So again, if they win the Premier League, that's your number one priority. I always think that's number one priority, unless you're Real Madrid, over the Champions League, really. So I don't want to diminish that in any kind of way at all. But there could be a slight little teensy danger, if that's the right word.
A sense of what if, because I think they have been by far and away the best team in the country, haven't they? And I think more than one trophy would be a true reflection of that, and they have to make sure that they turn that into reality.
And also, it could be an immediate pick-me-up as well after that PSG loss as well.
But they really need that, and this is the bit, I think, where we discover, as Luke said, we know they're a lot better than Newcastle, but this is the bit where we discover how much they've got left physically and mentally. Because as Jim was saying at the beginning. I think that's really it. How much they need to prove that they're able to move on from that. I mean, there was only very, very fine margins involved against what is an excellent PSG side. There's no doubt about that. But I think the difference is, if you go back to November, December, Liverpool maybe win that tie against PSG.
Yeah, I'd agree with you.
This is like 85% of what Liverpool were at the start of the season. So still excellent, but not quite at the same intensity, not quite with the same sort of imperious swagger, not playing quite the same sort of football as when they were battering Leverkusen or Real Madrid or anything like that. They're just, they're not less than excellent. They're just a little bit under par for what we know they can be, and that is the thing that gives Newcastle a glimmer of a chance, I suppose.
I think Newcastle's midfield as well. It's one of the best midfields in the league when it's kind of on song and it's firing properly. And
it's one you wouldn't want to face in their position.
Absolutely, and especially with Isak as the end point of that midfield functioning. Then I think Newcastle got a good chance here. I think more so than you guys seem to think.
But you talk about midfields. Liverpool got a very exceptionally balanced
Absolutely,
midfield.
of course
They've got so many good players in the middle of the park. Like Liverpool's, in one way, Liverpool's dominance in the Premier League this season has been based around that balance they've got in the middle. So, if you want to argue it's the two of the best midfielders going up against each other, I'll accept that. If Newcastle can get under Liverpool's skin with those kind of midfield players in that way, it could be interesting. But I think Liverpool win it.
But I think as a neutral, you always want to talk it up as the most balanced contest as you can possibly can. What I would say is former Newcastle director Amanda Staveless confirmed she'll be at the final alongside her husband. So,
yeah, I'm just trying to find something in my notes about anything I'm less interested in than that.
Okay,
that is the one. Yeah,
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I managed to find it. Apparently, there's no plans for an immediate open-top bus parade in Newcastle. Should they win this, as most players will immediately go on international.
It's the romance of the game, isn't it, that we love these days? 70 years as the domestic trophy. Get on that plane!
You can't say that there's a plan for it because the footballers and fans are superstitious. You cannot say that.
They won't even have Dead Print T-shirts, will they?
No.
But immediate makes it sound like they'll get out of the stadium at Wembley. Get
on the way over.
Yeah,
up the M1.
Yeah, top deck. Come on, taps off.
Yeah, Tyndall will have one. And he'll manage to get a tan somehow.
God, I'd come out for that, wouldn't you?
I would,
Jason Tyndall solo open top bus parade. Yes, please.
I think a lot of men
would be like
would come out for it.
JFK type Cadillac.
It would be.
Like the Pope-mobile.
With hopefully a different outcome.
Come on.
Would they not just be able to do the open top bus parade without Livramento and Gordon?
There's other players as well on international duty.
Yeah,
basically, you just need Howe and Tyndall.
England's the only one we care about, though, isn't it? Just need Howe and Tyndall.
That's all you need on the bus. Top on cop, top off cop.
Where's the Werthers in the glove box?
Now, at a charity dinner this week, former Newcastle United manager and player Kevin Keegan said he would have Bruno Guimaraes and Dan Burn in his entertainers team. That's a ring endorsement for Dan Burn. He's in the England squad. According to Keegan, he'd make the entertainers. I fancy him to nod the winner on Sunday.
Yeah, does that not make that far less likely? Having the touch of Keegan.
More to the point, does this mean Darren Peacock's getting bumped?
Anyway, Liverpool have beaten Chelsea in 2 of the last 3 Carabao Cup finals, of course. Mammoth penalty shootout in that game as well. And Sunday could mark the final appearance for Liverpool's penalty expert saving goalkeeper, Caoimhín Kelleher, who reportedly wants a move this summer. So that'll be interesting. I mean, he's such a good keeper. He should be starting games. And look, he's been great for Liverpool when he's been called upon. Will he be called upon on Sunday?
I think he'll probably play Alisson, won't he?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be kind of silly to not put your best team out in a cup final, surely.
I mean,
maybe it's part of the modern bargain, isn't it?
It is.
With a second choice goalkeeper that you start him for the cups. I guess it's the interesting thing how everything's changed in the last couple of months because Alisson's form, crowned by that away leg at PSG, has been so good. I think a lot of people were looking at, maybe it's Kelleher and Mamardashvili genuinely competing for the number 1 spot next season. But now it doesn't feel like they're going to sell Alisson.
Mamardashvili is part of the reason why Kelleher presumably wants to move on anyway.
Yeah,
because
quite possibly.
He's a really highly rated goalkeeper that they've just brought in because they could get him.
No, but if you're Kelleher, I think you like back yourself against.
But he's
it.
got to, whatever he does, Kelleher, is he's got to make the right decision about if he does move where he goes next, because you don't want to be in a Ramsdale position.
No,
you don't want to be in that situation where
Joe Hart, when you suddenly
another one. Joe Hart's another one. Yeah.
Coming up after this, Chelsea travel to Arsenal. That's right. On Sunday, Chelsea face Arsenal at 1:30. Chelsea hot off the back of beating FC Copenhagen 1-0 last night, 3-1 on AG. Not the most inspiring performance from Chelsea. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall got the only goal. Luke, Chelsea were not convincing last night. They got the job done, but they've had a bit of criticism from that performance.
Yeah, well, they were kind of reverting to type anyway. I mean, as I said, I think a week or so ago, it's kind of interesting that they're on their best ever run in European football, and no one really notices because the Conference League is people aren't paying attention to it. Really, it's not something that's being talked about. I'm sure it will start to get talked about a bit more in semi-final and final stage, but Chelsea are now in a position where they're kind of hanging on to a top 4 position based on their inconsistent form recently. And the way I would read that is just almost a revert to type. So at the start of the season, all of us, really, myself included, I was probably in the vanguard of this, were quite negative on Chelsea. How is Maresca going to be able to handle all these different players? It's hard to see what the system's going to be. It's hard to see how they move forward in a coherent fashion. And they started the season really well. We were all eating a load of humble pie, but now the humble pie appears to have finished. And now we're on to the next course, which is
just a different pie.
Revenge rabbit.
No, not quite a revenge, because they're not single leg stone. It's probably just normal pie.
Right.
Just a normal pie.
Yeah.
Chicken and
2 pies
pie.
in a row. What are you
me?
talking about?
I'd say you're having a smug sausage.
Yeah, maybe. But they are inconsistent. And the reality is, if we're going to have this conversation off the back of a Conference League, progression, with due respect to the fact that Copenhagen have fairly recently been a Champions League team, Andy.
Last season got to knockouts.
So that's fair enough. That does represent, I suppose, some improved form.
Yeah.
The Conference League just isn't worth anything. It's just not worth anything. And I don't mean to piss off West Ham fans saying that. The Conference League isn't worth much if you're Chelsea.
It's ridiculous to have a competition where at the start of the season you're desperately looking for reasons why one team won't win it.
Yeah.
And it was the same situation with Aston Villa last season, who somehow managed to absolutely lose it in the home leg against Olympiacos, and they couldn't really handle the occasion. It seemed like the best thing remaining in the Conference League is that. The only thing remaining in the Conference League is that Chelsea and Fiorentina are in different halves of the draw.
Yeah. I was going to say
that's the only thing
this has got written all over it. A scrappy Chelsea win and Fiorentina losing another final in the Conference League.
Although you would have to say, if you're looking for a reason for it to be a spectacle and be competitive, of course there is a gap. But Fiorentina have got a much better side than either of the sides that got to the final.
But it's Anthony and Real Betis are still at Andy. So come on.
Let's not rule them out.
It's just a quirk of the competition, though, isn't it? That Chelsea have ended up in it, and it's I think it's still a valid competition. It just seems a bit silly when Chelsea are in it, and that's not likely to be a regular occurrence.
Will it seem sillier when Manchester City are in it next season?
But that's always the flaw with the Conference League idea. On one level, it's actually a really good idea, because if you're West Ham, it's great, and I respect what West Ham did in it, and I'm not trying to denigrate it or trivialise it. That was brilliant for the situation they're in, but you can't. The flaw with it is you can't combat against a really well-resourced big team having a bad season.
Well, West Ham fall into that, really. It's not really for Premier League clubs,
in a way, yeah. And so that's what kind of undermines the whole thing. But the reality is that, on one side you get some unfancied, fairly unsuccessful at the top level sides enjoying senior latter stage European competition, which is great. I mean, teams like the
Jagiellonia Białystok,
the Polish team and the Slovenian side that went through. But on the other hand, it's kind of undermined by the fact you've got this massive £400 gorilla in the room. It's just about to smash the shit out of everything.
Yeah, there is that. Well, despite all this chat about Chelsea, they are fourth in the Premier League.
Yeah, they're holding on to fourth, as I said. They're in that mix for, in what is quite an open Premier League season, to get in the Champions League this year. And in fairness, that's probably what we thought would happen at the start of the season. They've just gone about it a bit of a scenic route.
Yeah,
I think that they've become a bit predictable, haven't they? And there's been a bit of kind of discomfort within the fan base about that. I think Enzo Fernandes passed the ball back to the goalkeeper recently, and that got a big negative reaction. And Maresca himself came out and said he's doing that because I want him to do that. And I think the patterns of play have maybe become a little bit kind of static and a bit repetitive and dull. And obviously they've won the last 2 games, but it is Leicester and Southampton there. So on the flip side of it, Arsenal are going through a rough patch because of the sort of strikerless situation. It's not the only reason that's happening, I don't think, but it's obviously the major contributor to it. And Chelsea are the best team that Arsenal are going to face in this period. So it's actually quite an interestingly balanced game in a lot of ways. Gabriel Martinelli's back now, but he's not fully fit. He's only come off the bench a couple of times. I'd imagine he'll start on Sunday.
I mean, it's incredible to think that Chelsea have only won 1 of their last 11 games against Arsenal, bearing in mind that Arsenal for a while just couldn't beat Chelsea. And I understand Chelsea were a lot better. That's the reason.
Sure.
But that record is poor from Chelsea against Arsenal.
It is, but Arsenal as well.
I like it.
Arsenal are going through their worst period at a key part of the season, right? Which is annoying from Arsenal's point of view. But it's almost a bit like an extension of what I said earlier when it comes to Liverpool. It's easy enough if you're well coached, you've had your manager there for a while. I know Liverpool haven't had that, but in Arsenal's case, and you can go through, build your way into the season, and you can knock teams over and blah blah blah. The problem with Arsenal is that they've gone out the League Cup in annoying circumstances to Newcastle, and that was an opportunity for them, Jim, wasn't it?
It was.
They've had some really kind of odd results, particularly that defeat at home to West Ham. And now they kind of look, you say Chelsea have turned predictable. Arsenal just look a bit slow.
Oh, mate.
And a bit kind of like, they've lost, it's not even that they're predictable, although they are a bit predictable, it's they've lost their tempo.
Yes.
And it's quite hard to get that back.
Definitely.
At this part of the season.
The scooped ball over the top from not just Martin Odegaard, but lots of players. It's such a pointless ball.
Jim, it's a cowardly pass.
It's so hard for the person on the end of it to do anything with it, to even get a pass off from it. And we see it so often. I think, it's a fair criticism of Arsenal, actually. The patterns of play have become very, very predictable. But I think part of that might be explained by them trying to get used to playing with Mikel Mourinho as a centre forward. They've had a bit more experience.
Which is not what you expected us to say.
Indeed, yeah. Hopefully, this will be the last instance of that.
What did you think of Raheem Sterling?
Raheem Sterling,
he was much better.
He got 2 assists. I think only one of them is a real assist because of Zinchenko's game. Yeah,
come on. They're playing against a team who just did not want to travel.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a strange circumstance. He incredibly managed to get himself suspended for the first leg of the quarterfinal, which really sums up his season. I think he's been the effort has been there. I think it'd be very easy to look at this from the outside without paying too much attention to it and think, he's just not bothered about it. He works hard whenever he's on. It just feels like you never expect him to beat his man. Nothing seems to come off for him. He's working really, really, really hard. But I just think it's like the skill's gone. Yep. It's like the opposite of someone's legs going. It's like the ability's gone. It's really strange.
Also, getting booked in the 92nd minute to get suspended when you're 9-3 up on aggregate is mental.
It's special. I think the interesting thing about this game in particular, though, is so much of what we've said around both Chelsea and Arsenal is perception. If you actually look at the numbers, if Chelsea were to win this, they're 3 points behind Arsenal all of a sudden. Now, the way that we perceive Chelsea and Arsenal at the moment, Chelsea, have still got a good chance of getting for the Champions League, but it's not nailed on. Whereas we think, Arsenal haven't won the league, but they've got Champions League. Where actually the numbers don't tell you that at all.
I agree.
And if Chelsea win this, all of a sudden it means Arsenal have to motor a little bit in the league and find some sort of form from somewhere, even with that sort of comfort blanket of knowing that really top 5 is.
And Andy, just quickly, Jim, sorry, that is the most interesting part of the Premier League left this season, right? So if Chelsea win, for the neutrals like us, and you're thinking about who's going to win the Champions League places, I believe if Chelsea win, its second downwards is now up for grabs. Yeah, because of the form Arsenal have been in,
and also a dangerous mindset that Arsenal could possibly be a bit guilty of falling into is that we just got to weather this period without the forward players, and it's only 2 forward players who are back this season, which is Martinelli and Saka, because Jesus and Havertz are out for the season, and then we'll just be really good again and it'll be fine. That might not be the case when you're coming out of a period of bad form. It's hard to drag yourself out of that, so it's really important that they course correct and get a Premier League win on Sunday.
But before that, there's this.
Dean Smith also says you're an encyclopedia of football.
A what?
An encyclopedia of football.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that's right. The big dog's not here. You know, Vish retained his belts once again last week with a 2-0 victory over Marcus and Luke. But
I don't think 2-0 sells a story. I think me and Marcus were a bit better.
Luke, let it go.
All right. I just can't get up for it with Vish, isn't it?
anyway, listeners,
I think this is an important game. I think this is.
It feels like the race for the Conference League, doesn't it?
He
can't have it.
Jim,
he can't even accept it as a joke.
Jim, I feel like I'm in the Conference League playing now.
Yeah.
As the great Sir Bobby Robson once said,
yeah.
every time England plays, it matters.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When was the last time you had a win? Was it you beat Andy, didn't you, recently?
Couple of weeks ago.
And that was that. But that's been it for ages. It's been barren, hasn't it, for you?
Well, you should beat me today, then, shouldn't you?
No problem.
Yes, especially as it's, as you know, a simple game of categories. If you go too slow, I'll play Gary Neville's Goalgasm, which will leave you 7 seconds. A nice topical topic. That was a mercenism, that, wasn't it? For our first question, every player who started the 2023 League Cup final between Manchester United and Newcastle United, Jim Campbell, you are to my right.
I'm going to go for
Take
Bruno
some,
Guimaraes.
I'll have Casemiro.
Oh, you bastard! Because I mentioned that he scored. Kieran Trippier.
Fabian Schär.
Nice.
Marcus Rashford.
Okay. Bruno Fernandes.
Oh, yes.
Nice. Joe Linton.
Dan Burn.
Why I?
I thought I was struggling with it.
Oh, it's always frightening when it delays it, isn't it? I think it sticks in my mind that Loris Karius was in goal for them.
Oh, that's a good one.
Well played.
Schalke's Loris Karius.
Sean Longstaff.
Jim, that was very confident. No one's ever said the word Longstaff with as much confidence as that.
Nick Pope?
Matt, I just said Loris Karius. Started the game in goal.
Got sent off in the semi, didn't he?
Oh, I'm a fool. What a chuck away that was.
Yeah.
Right, so, Luke.
So Jim went first, didn't he?
Yes.
So I've got to get one.
To stay in.
I'm pretty sure Sven Botman started.
Nice.
Correct?
Started, isn't it? Diogo Dalot?
Very
good.
Very nice.
I'm not going to lie to you. We're getting down to the scrubs now.
Yes. I'm going to take another goalkeeper-themed punt and say David De Gea.
Excellent.
Well played.
Ooh, yeah, very good.
So Jim... So,
This is very good,
both,
fellas.
okay, right.
Jim went first.
Miggy Almiron?
Oh, good one. Definitely.
Very good.
Yeah. Shit, and your hat and punch it.
See, I can't believe that. I knew Dubravka didn't play. I didn't hear Loris Karius, and then I was thinking, who was it?
Dubravka did get a medal.
Torres
Yeah.
to give Chelsea a place in the Champions League final. The headline has been written.
Garnacho. Mother.
Point to Jim. That was a good round, though. Alison Maximal, you could have had him. We have mentioned so many of these players today. Anthony, Callum Wilson, Fred, who, of course, missed a penalty for Fenerbahce last night. Lisandro Martinez, Luke Shaw, Rafael Varane, Wout bloody Weghorst.
I thought of Shaw, but you just don't know with the injuries, do you?
I thought Weghorst came on.
In my mind, Fred left United about 15 years ago.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, there you go. 1-0 to the Campbell.
Well played, Jim.
We're staying on the League Cup theme. Every League Cup winning captain since the year 2000.
Blimey.
That is tough.
It is a toughie. And Marcus is going to lead us
2000.
out the gate.
Surely Virgil van Dijk.
Got to be. Oh, my goodness
2024.
me. I'm just trying to think of teams that have won it. Who was captain at that point? I'll have a little snifter at David Silva.
Very good.
Nice.
Twice,
Well
2019
played,
and 2020.
Well played.
Yeah, I think he was captain by then, so it makes sense.
I'll go for John Terry.
Got to be.
Got to be captain leader.
3 times.
See, that David Silva shout has thrown me.
Since year 2000?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's thrown me because
It is hard.
I'm still going to go for Vincent Kompany. Oh,
Yeah, got to be. He's got to be in there.
no. Okay,
Very
but
good.
I'd have to
3
really-
times
yeah,
as well.
okay.
Yeah, but that was before.
Equal
Sure,
record
sure.
with John Terry in that period.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, if I say this answer and it's right, you guys are going to know the angle I'm going down.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got nothing else. So, Sami Hyypiä?
Nice.
Very good. 2003.
Jordan Henderson.
Very good.
This is annoying. Which one do I go for?
It's Torres to give Chelsea a place in the Champions League final.
Rio Ferdinand? Not sure
Yeah,
he's captain.
he's got to be in there.
Oh, he was in there.
2009.
Oh,
Very
okay,
good.
okay.
Very well
Nice.
played.
Presumably, unless I'm missing something ridiculous here, Bruno Fernandes?
Good.
Well done.
Steven Gerrard.
This is excellent.
Safe bet.
Really good.
It's Torres to give Chelsea a place in the Champions League final.
Frank Quadru. Can't remember who's their captain.
It's a
Yeah.
good guess.
So, Marcus, if I
That's
get
not
one, Marcus is
right.
out.
Yeah.
So, I think this is another flyer.
You see where I was going with that, but yeah.
I think that Robbie Fowler might have been the captain.
Correct.
Oh, well done.
2001,
Well
2001,
done.
yeah.
Well done.
Very good.
Yeah, I couldn't think of the captain of that side.
Roy Keane.
Oh, yes,
Roy
point!
Keane.
Point!
It's a point to Luke.
Did you go Ehiog in there?
Who was the middle?
I was going to say
No.
Gareth Southgate.
Who you could have had? You could have had Gareth.
Do you know what? I
Southgate.
thought
Yeah,
Southgate, and I
You
thought
could have had Ashley Williams for Swansea. You could have had
yeah.
Chris Smalling. You could have had Fernandinho for Manchester City in 2021.
Okay.
You could have had Gary Neville. You could have had Henning Berg. You could have had Ledley King 2008. You could have had Matt Elliott for Leicester 2000. You could have had Patrice Evra 2010.
No
or
one's getting Matt Elliott. in
Stephen
2000.
Carr 2011.
Yeah, that's the thing. So
You say
I
Stephen Carr, like we should have all got.
Yeah. Leicester, I couldn't think, and I was thinking Middlesbrough. Oh my
I
goodness.
don't even know who the team was in 2011.
I
Stephen
wondered
Carr.
if Southgate, of course, that was I thought was he gone by then? Oh, good round.
Well done, everyone. So it's 1-1-0 as we go to the third and final category. Every club currently competing in League One, English football's third tier. Luke, you
That's
are
it,
going
just
to
League
start
One
us.
teams?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Pretty straightforward one then.
You hated them last season. You don't care about them now.
Yeah. It's me first,
Yeah,
right?
go on.
Birmingham.
Leighton Orient.
Good.
Bolton Wanderers.
Reading.
Plymouth will go up? No, fuck.
They will
the
be.
Championship,
Not
aren't they?
yet,
Shit.
boy. Not yet, boy.
Exeter City.
Jim can see the future.
So Jim's out, right?
Yes, he is.
Stockport County.
Very good.
Come on.
Some biggies in here.
Yeah, there is.
He presses that button quick for me, I'm telling you.
It's Torres to give Chelsea a place in the
Notts County.
final.
Luke Moore.
Wrexham you could have had.
Yeah, it's Paul that.
Yeah, you could have had Barnsley, Blackpool, Bristol Rovers, Burton Albion, Cambridge United, Charlton Athletic, Crawley, Huddersfield, Lincoln, Mansfield, Northampton, Peterborough, Rotherham, Shrewsbury, Stevenage, Wigan, Wrexham, and Wycombe Wanderers. Why does it feel like Steve Evans has managed all of those clubs?
I'll tell you what, I was actually talking about Stockport County this morning to producer Tom. They've had an amazing journey. They've gone from National League North up to the top end of League One.
It's impressive. that.
Incredible.
It's a fairy tale.